Good morning, everybody. Republican candidate for Wisconsin Governor Rebecca Kleefisch is our very special guest today, Friday, May 13th, 2022. A special thank you to Congressman Tom Tiffany for joining us yesterday for our monthly Breakfast with Tiffany show. In case you missed it, you can watch a recording of that conversation and all of our chats on our website, on our Facebook page right here, or on our YouTube channel, just youtube.com/DrydenWire. Next week, Barron County Sheriff Chris Fitzgerald and I will be back for our 95th episode of our Positive Tuesday with Ben and Fitzy show. Then on Thursday, I'll be chatting with Democratic candidate for U.S. Senate Tate Lee. And we'll wrap up the week next Friday when I'll be joined by Democratic candidate for Wisconsin's 25th Senate District, Kelly Westland. But today, we're chatting with Republican candidate for Wisconsin Governor. Back on the show, Rebecca Kleefisch. Miss Kleefisch, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful. It's been a minute since you've been on.
It's summer in Wisconsin.
Yeah, what's the temp? Where are you now?
I'm in South Central Wisconsin. I live in Jefferson County.
South Central.
I'm actually at my house right now. So if you hear the lawn mower, that would be the neighbors who decided it would be a good time to mow in the middle of the DrydenWire. But it's supposed to be like 80 degrees today.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, I think it's about up here too. Yesterday was in the whatever. It is what it is. It's spring, and Wisconsin is awesome, and at least it's now finally, colors. So you have been on. You came on, I think in 2020 you came on, and then a couple of times last year. Last time I think was last summer, and this was before you officially announced. But come on, we all knew that you were going to. But still, so this is the first time on since then. But before I start, I want to say thank you. Thank you. I learned two new words, two new swear words because of you. So thank you.
Did I teach you?
Yeah, well, no. Yesterday, so we ran this published an article.
What mother am I to teach you?
Yesterday, you sent us an article that we published on DrydenWire.com, and then of course we put it on Facebook and put it on Twitter. And we're going to get into that article. That's really what I want to talk about. The headline was "The Swamp Doesn't Like Me, but I Don't Like Them Either." So I put it on Facebook, just a link, and I go to Twitter. I don't hang out on Twitter. It's just a really, really angry place, especially when it comes to politics. But I put our links on there. And since I don't ever share my views or opinions on Twitter, I just share our links for our website, we don't get DMs. It's rare that we get one. Well, let me tell you, we got quite a few yesterday.
Oh, did you
And
really?
I get hate mail, but wow, Twitter DM hate mail, that takes it up a notch. Right, and it was because of your article, and it was just great.
I'm so impressed right now.
Yeah, I know. Thank you.
Are you going to send these to me?
Sure.
I read my mean tweets on the air on DrydenWire?
That would be awesome. Well, I can't read one of them because I counted the words. There were 19 words this person used. 14 were swear words, which I didn't even know that was possible. And 2 of them I didn't know, so I had to Google or go to Urban Dictionary. So I don't know if they're technically swear words, but they're like slang, swear, whatever. So I've added those to my vocabulary. So I just want to say thank you. I would never have known those words if it wasn't for your article.
You're welcome. It's my public service before I go back to public service.
Oh, well, I appreciate it. So keep it up. How's Joel? How are the girls?
Good. Apparently did not get a turkey this morning, but I think he'll live. I mean, he's got a couple more days on his tag. Kids are great. My big girl just came home from college late last night, and so I'm so excited that she is home. And my little girl has prom tomorrow, and so all is well in the Kleefisch house.
Is this her first prom?
It is, and so she's very excited.
Okay, and how are the parents?
I'm fine. I mean, she's just going as a friend.
Oh, sure. Okay,
so it's not like some big, romantic Hallmark movie type of deal. It's just, she's just going with friends.
Okay, I'm just saying, I mean, I was a boy once myself, and if I were a parent, right. Yep, so how's the campaign going? Again, this is the first time you have been on since you have announced that you were running for governor. How's the campaign going?
It's going so well. We're just out here, warring, kicking butts, taking names every day, and staying on offense against Tony Evers, because Tony Evers has done a terrible job managing Wisconsin over the last 3 years, and it's time that we, the people, take back control. And I think when the people are in charge, you have opportunities for great governance. We saw it in the Walker Kleefisch administration, and Ben, you know that the best indication of what you'll do in the future is what you've done in the past. And in the past, we had one of the most successful administrations in Wisconsin. I would argue national history. People looked to our state for great conservative reforms. Now people are looking to Florida, they're looking to Texas, they're looking to South Carolina, South Dakota. I want to be the destination for great reform once again. And so let's run fast again. I'm ready to go. I understudied this job for 8 years. I know exactly what I want to do. I know how to get it accomplished. So let's win.
And you're in the thick of it now. I mean, we're May. So is this, what's the difference between May 13th campaigning and January 13th campaigning?
It's a lot warmer. How's that? How's that for my weather?
I love it. I love it.
It's different. It's different because in January, you're just pulling off all of the Christmas events and that type of thing for a lot of either Patriot or Republican Party groups. And now we're just kind of healing up the tail end of what we call Lincoln Day dinners. So these are dinners that are usually thrown as the biggest fundraiser of the year for county Republican parties across the state. And you're also finishing up with caucuses. So these are folks who are going to be delegates to the Republican Party state convention. That happens May 21st. And so right now, I'm working on the road 12, 16 hours a day, every day. And it's mostly going to Republican Party events, but still a lot of, trade association events. Tony Evers has largely ignored big cogs in the wheel of Wisconsin's economy. And I suppose one of the benefits of having been the lieutenant governor is I already have a relationship with a lot of these industries across Wisconsin. And so when Tony Evers refuses to show up, I'll show up. I'll give an update. I'll tell people what I see in the economy and how we can fix some of the things that Tony Evers has broken over his 3 years of failed leadership. I mean, our economy absolutely stinks right now. Nothing is affordable. I mowed the other day and I rejoiced that I filled up with last year's gas in my lawnmower.
You mowed?
I'm not the only one.
Where's Joel?
Get scam in the system.
Is Joel around? Where's Joel? Jeepers, you're mowing the lawn?
Mowing the lawn is therapeutic because
Okay.
I have a big yard, and so you've got 2 hours where you are not doing emails, you are not doing phone calls, you're not, approving things that are going to go out. And so sometimes mowing the lawn is the most peaceful thing on earth.
My dad.
What was further peaceful, Ben, is filling up on last year's $2 a gallon.
That's nice. I know my dad, when he was the sheriff in Washington, that was like he loved mowing the lawn because it was just you can just check out mentally and just get all that stuff and kind of just go away for a little while. And I have one thing and I can do it and I can accomplish it. And when I'm finished, I can look back and say, it's done.
I love instant gratification chores because whether you're vacuuming or whether you're doing toilets or whether you're mowing the lawn, you can instantly see the results of your work. You know what, honestly, that's why I like state government versus federal government. State government, you can still see the results of good work. The federal government is just a disaster. And I'm sorry, I love Tom Tiffany, Congressman Tiffany, who has endorsed me in this race, but I don't know how he bears it. And Senator Ron Johnson, I can only imagine those are the most frustrating jobs on the face of planet Earth. But I can tell you from experience that you can talk to someone in Wisconsin. They can share their problems and their challenges, their hopes for a solution. You can take that back to state government and you can implement good ideas that are evidence-based. You can go back to that very same person 6 months later and you will have changed their life. And it is extraordinary. And there is nothing so wonderful as seeing the gratification on their face, the thankfulness that you listened and you implemented their idea and it worked. Not just for them, but for a whole bunch of other people who are facing the same challenges. And that's why I love, good policy at the state level, and why I think things can still work at the state.
Well, it looks like Dad's watching because it says we'll be peaceful and come up and mow his lawn. So, hey, if you're looking to mow some lawn, you can stop up at his house. All right, so I want to get to this article that you had yesterday. So we published that yesterday morning, and your headline was "The Swamp Doesn't Like Me, but I Don't Like Them Either." So I just pulled out a few things this morning. Anyone that watches these shows that I do knows that I really don't prepare for any of these things as much as I probably should, but I kind of like doing it that way, the Saturday Night Live approach. Let's just kind of wing it. So I just pulled out a few things this morning, and honestly, my first question I wrote down was, for the people who don't know, because we hear that word swamp all the time, what exactly is the Madison Swamp, and why does it need to be drained?
Well, you think of a swamp as kind of a place where, greasy and creepy creatures are lurking, and they're not doing good things, right? They are the underbelly. And that's kind of what a swamp truly is. It's the snakes and the mosquitoes, and it's the bottom feeders of the world. And that's what we see government doing a lot. And frankly, during this COVID time, I think it exposed a lot more people to what a swamp truly can do, because government spread fear like wildfire and then propped itself up as the solution to curing your fear. And all they needed to do was take a couple of these rights away, or take a little bit more money here, or make an incursion on your liberties. And what we saw was a lot of people actually buying into it, saying, oh, well, if government is going to save me from this, and if government is going to protect me from this, then okay, so be it. I will give up some of my rights, and government, you can have that piece of my life. And that's how the bureaucracy grows. That's how government takes more of your money and your freedoms from you. And you never see the people who have those jobs want it to get smaller. People aren't coming to government every day to try and work themselves out of jobs. And that's a problem, because a lot of what government should be doing is solving problems to the point where people are working themselves out of jobs. So it's not only the vast bureaucracy, I would also say it is a lot of the lobby corps, the people who are not coming to educate policymakers, but the people who are instead coming to get their palms greased, to grow government just a little bit more, to get their piece of the pie. The Gilded Age, Tammany Hall style, New York City, Chicago style politics of yesteryear are not gone. It still exists in America today, and we make fun of it still happening in New York and Washington, D.C. and Chicago, but it still happens in Madison. And I'm not saying that all lobbyists are bad guys. I'm not saying all bureaucrats are bad guys. In fact, there are some who truly work to do the work of the people, the administration, but there are also some who are not trying to work themselves out of jobs, who are not truly serving the people in the most effective, efficient way, and trying to root out waste, fraud, and abuse. And there are also some lobbyists who are coming to get their palms greased, as opposed to educate people who are the policymakers. Those are the people I have a problem with. The people who are coming to line their pockets and to get their chunk of the pie.
There is after, maybe we should circle back to this, but I kind of have this in a flow here. And one of the parts of your article says our Republican state legislators need a strong leader and ally to do the right thing for you and your family on election integrity, defunding the unborn, and curbing the growing crime epidemic. Those three topics I want to come back to, but moving past that right now, you had asked, or I'm sorry, in there, like, how do we drain the swamp? How do we do it? You said dismantle Madison. Turning it upside down is cute, but not enough. Brick by brick, we need to take back power from the bureaucrats and lobbyists who run the swamp. That's why I'm ready to take back control from Madison by moving our state agencies out into the rest of the state. Yeah, so what state agencies are referring to there?
Well, you saw in the Walker Kleefisch administration, we took a chunk of DNR out of Madison, our forestry department, and you saw us move parts of the Department of Children and Families out closer to the people it truly serves. But you talk about the regulations and the permitting processes that we have in Wisconsin today that are just dragging on under Governor Tony Evers. Why are those things mucked down and mired in the Madison swamp? Why are people not closer to the folks that they are serving. That means the Department of Safety and Professional Services. That means more parts of the Department of Natural Resources, more parts of the Department of Children and Families. And we know that there are others as well. See, if you are closer to the people you actually serve, you're automatically going to run into them more then.
Well, true. It's like being a parent. You can't really parent from, 120
Precisely.
miles away. You kind of need to be around.
What's the most accountable level of government? Local government. Why is that? Because you can literally run into your school board members, your town council members in the produce section of your local grocery store. You can yell at them in front of the apples. And if that is the case, then we've got tremendous accountability if we move chunks of state government out of Madison and closer to the people they serve. And frankly, if you came to public service for the right reasons to truly serve your fellow man, well, then you shouldn't be afraid of that at all.
Yeah. We have a question here. We'll get to it now. Adam Jarko. Because I want to get to the snakes and weasels thing that you put, because I thought that was funny. I'd love to hear Rebecca's thoughts on the monster Evers is about to parole.
Oh my gosh. This is a case that's gotten a lot of play then in southern Wisconsin because Judge Diane Sykes did the sentencing for this about 25 years ago. Right now, there's a man named John Tate who is appointed by Tony Evers to be the head of the Parole Commission. John Tate is a former Racine County supervisor and is an activist. He is a full-scale pro-rioter, pro-defund the police activist. You remember that Tony Evers ran for election on the idea of letting half of our prison population go, right? I mean, if you don't remember that, let me remind you, this is who Tony Evers is and seeks to be. John Tate, the head of his parole commission, has now said that on May 17th, just days from now, he wants to let go a man who has been sentenced for 80 years. Why? Because he stabbed his ex-wife 42 times in front of their little teeny kids. She ran from room to room, bleeding to death, trying to run away from her killer. All of this in front of her 4-year-old and 2-year-old. As she lay dying, he left those children there to watch their mother, and he went to Taco Bell. Those 2 little ones were found walking along the street by a neighbor, hand in hand, one of them still wearing a diaper bend, covered in their mother's blood. Today, John Tate and Tony Evers want to let this man go. Those 2 little teeny kids who lost their mom that day, they're all grown up now, and they're furious because this man, this killer, this monster should never be let out on the street. The judge, when she sentenced him, said this is a case where this man should never be eligible for early parole. And yet this activist man is out there advocating for his parole. It's absolutely wrong, and we cannot allow these killers back out onto Wisconsin streets. We have a crime epidemic right now, Ben, and I'm sorry I'm getting heated about this, but at the end of the day, it's my job as a mom to protect my 2 daughters, my family, and the families of this state, and we don't let killers just go because we're pandering to the far leftist fringes of the Democrat Party.
So is this is going to be an Evers decision?
It should be an Evers decision.
Oh, it should be. Okay.
Evers needs to remove John Tate, the head of the parole commission,
Got it.
and Evers needs to stop this man from being released.
Do you think that will happen?
It better happen. If it doesn't, Tony Evers' days are numbered. I would argue that Tony Evers' days are numbered already because Tony Evers also allows John Chisholm to stay exactly where he is. He is the Milwaukee County District Attorney, the man who lets low and no bail be his policy of his career. Back in 2007, John Chisholm, the DA of Milwaukee County, knew that setting low or no bail for bad guys was going to lead to loss of life. He was interviewed about it. Ben, he said he knew it was going to lead to loss of life. He said, in fact, I guarantee it. And he is the man who let a monster go that drove through the middle of the Waukesha Christmas parade, killing 6 people, injuring 61. Right now, Tony Evers has the opportunity to fire John Chisholm, the Milwaukee County District Attorney, who has allowed crime to spill out all across the state. And listen, where you are right now, there may not be 20 people shot in a weekend, but let me tell you what there are. There are ODs at epidemic levels.
Mm-hmm.
And anyone listening and watching right now knows that there are overdoses in their community right now. They also know that there is human trafficking in their community and that we're not as safe as we once were. Violent crime is up 9% year over year. But when you see in La Crosse, the biggest fentanyl and meth busts in La Crosse PD history, when you see over in Green Bay that their murder rate is up 60% year over year, when I am talking to big time people who are saying, well, can't park my car on the street anymore because, smash and grabs over at the Fiserv Forum. And, if I parked overnight, then, my pistol's going to be stolen or my catalytic converter is going to be gone. You know that this is creeping everywhere.
Yep.
The criminals are coming for you because we are not being truly protected by the people who have the opportunity to protect us. Our governor, our district attorneys, our judges. That's why we also need to do bail and sentencing reform, Ben. We need to take away discretion from these bad district attorneys and these bad judges who are letting these bad guys go with catch and release policies. And that's exactly what we saw in the Waukesha Parade massacre. And this is exactly what is happening with the release of this horrible man who has been convicted of the murder of his wife, stabbing her 42 times in front of her toddlers. How Tony Evers cannot not only condemn this, but stop it is beyond me. He is literally siding with a murderer and an activist parole commission over the people of Wisconsin who just want to be protected.
I guess my dad has an opinion about that. Okay, so let's. Do we expect? Easy now, Dad.
No, he's right. Though.
Oh, that's just great.
So Terry said. So if you guys are just listening and not watching, Terry just said that Tate is an idiot. How can you think that there is any wisdom or logic behind a decision like this? So I know why Jarko emailed you. He wants me to talk about something that we all need to talk about right now. And frankly, it's not just about my race. It is also about the Attorney General's race. Because Josh Kaul has been silent when being vocal has mattered. And when being vocal is not what he should do, that's exactly what he has been doing. Because you mentioned that we were going to bring this up later, so I'm just going to bring it up right now. Tony Evers and Josh Kaul have said that they're just going to go ahead and pitch Wisconsin law into the dumpster and not defend the rights to life for the unborn if Roe v. Wade is struck down. We need an attorney general and a governor who will actually defend law and constitution. Now, I'm telling you right now that we need better laws, especially when it comes to, election integrity. But the legislature is standing ready, chomping at the bit. Tony Evers has vetoed 129, I think 126, some extraordinary number of things. We need good laws, but we need a good governor who will actually sign them. And we need an attorney general who will defend those laws and therefore the people of Wisconsin. Nobody's protecting us, the regular people. Tony Evers and Josh Kaul are protecting the far left fringes of their political party. That's just wrong, and it's out of touch, and those weak and failed ideas need to be pitched to the curb.
We have another question here before we move on. It is from Lynn. Explain as Lieutenant Governor how much input did actually have on the decisions made by Governor Walker?
Sure. So as Lieutenant Governor, you are limited by your constitutional role, and there has been an understanding since 1969 that the governor and lieutenant governor are of one political party, and there has been an understanding, I would say, since Governor Tommy Thompson's administration that you no longer have the lieutenant governor declaring herself governor the moment the governor steps foot out of state. Because of modern technology, there are much better relationships, and the governor remains governor. However, every administration is different, and I've got to give credit where credit is due. And Governor Scott Walker gave the lieutenant governor's office, when I held it, tremendous opportunity. And so when the governor was gone, I ran the cabinet. When we were in budget, I sat next to him every single time, asking the questions, helping make the decisions. And that's one of the reasons he has endorsed me. He has full confidence because I was there by his side in every one of those cabinet meetings, in every one of those budget briefings and agency sessions. That's very important that I know exactly what I'm doing and how to hit the ground running, because I've been there before. And also, I've learned from the mistakes and the trials that we had to go through, and I won't repeat them. But I also have the benefit of seeing what did work. And the good news is we came off the 07-09 recession and ran for office in 2010. We're sworn in 2011. I know what it is like to claw back from a recession, from the part of state government that we know is going to need to activate in order to assure more people can keep more of their own money to fight hyperinflation, which is due directly to the bad policies of Joe Biden and Tony Evers. If you want to know why you can't afford gas and groceries in the same day, blame Tony Evers, blame Joe Biden. But because of my experience as lieutenant governor, both, being with the governor in cabinet and in budget making time, I also can tell you what parts of our budget are going to be the most important, what things we're actually building out right now so we can hit the ground running. And I can also tell you from my experience in my independent policy portfolio that there is tremendous value in having a partner. I led the tax reform roundtables across the state. And as you guys know, we reformed taxes tremendously, giving people more certainty and stability. We cut taxes by $13 billion. But it wasn't just tax reform that I worked on. I also did a lot of work on welfare reform and workforce development reform. That's going to be very important in our administration because we got 138,000 open jobs and a worker crisis right now. Tony Evers has 100,000 extra people on Medicaid that we need to help jump back into the workforce because we need to take down those help wanted signs and instead grow our tax base because there are more people working in our state. I led the governor's small business roundtables. I started the governor's small business summit. I helped minority and female and veteran entrepreneurs jump into being their own bosses by starting Small Business Academy. I started the Interagency Council on Homelessness so that we could work together on ending homelessness as we know it. And I fought to get workforce centers put in our correctional facilities so that when people are being released, they're not going to be released to simply commit crimes, re-victimize people, and recidivate, coming back into our corrections department, costing you and me, the taxpayer, money, but instead going back, being a good guy, and becoming a taxpayer so we can grow our base and drop our rates.
Getting back to, there's been a couple of questions. We can get those in a little bit here if we get time towards the end, but I don't want to forget to follow up and continue on with your article yesterday. The swamp doesn't like me, but I don't like them either. You had stated here, this is what some, Twitter seemed to really like yesterday. Today, you wrote, 12 years after my first run-in with Madison, snakes and weasels, they are trying to stop me again. Yep, so just to clarify, to whom are these snakes and weasels? Or who is that?
They're the underbelly. They're the bad guys. They are the ones who want to play Tammany Hall politics in the year 2022. The Gilded Age is over, Ben, and we're done greasing the palms and lining the pockets of lobbyists who are snakes and weasels. The same can be said of people who just want to grow the bureaucracy. And my first run-ins with these people was when I was newly lieutenant governor. Now, you remember, well, maybe don't. And for those of you who are watching and just learning about my first run for political office, let me tell you, I was not the favorite of the Republican Party establishment. So I was literally hated. I was the first one voted off of the endorsement ballot at the state Republican Party convention. I ran against 5 men, most of whom had much more political experience than I. I was just a Tea Party mom who was pissed off and running for political office because I felt nobody was protecting my children well enough. And you know what? I had come from an industry where I was a paid observer. I was paid to chase down the snakes and weasels. I was a big J journalist, an actual ethical journalist. And I remember the day I chased down former Milwaukee County Executive Tom Ament, who had just minted a sweetheart deal for himself and his cronies to retire millionaires from Milwaukee County. Passed it all. But so what I did was I chased him through this weaving set of all of these chairs, stuck my microphone in his face, and demanded he answer for what he did. He wheeled around and he grabbed the microphone awkwardly out of my hands, and he wound up just kind of freezing and handing it to his aide and dashing out the door. See, bad guys, the snakes and weasels, they don't like to be confronted. They don't like to be confronted by journalists like me. And you saw a journalist confront Tony Evers as he walked out of a press conference yesterday. He didn't want to answer questions about John Tate and the parole of that bad man who killed his wife by stabbing her 42 times in front of their toddlers. See, bad politicians, they don't want to answer questions. And that's who I was to them. I was the person who was going to ask too many questions. I was going to be the rabble-rouser. I was not the pick of the party establishment then. And apparently I'm not the pick of the Madison swamp types today. But listen, I have not changed who I am. I am the same woman who ran as the underdog in 2010, hated by the Republican establishment. I'm the same woman who fought off cancer, had to be taken for emergency surgery in my last 2 weeks of my primary election. I got out of the hospital on election day.
That's crazy.
Got out just in time to vote for myself and then go to the polls and beat all of those men by 21 points. Because at the end of the day, people do want a regular person representing them. They want someone who, does mow her own lawn and does do her own toilets and says, vacuuming is an instant gratification chore. Because you know what the rest of us do? You know, we are sitting here under Tony Evers' weak and failed leadership, under Joe Biden's weak and failed leadership, worried about, golly, are we going to be able to fill up our propane tanks? And, oh, hey, I'm one of the households that still doesn't have rural broadband, while Tony Evers is working on increasing speed for the people who already have it. See, the rest of us, we would like to be represented too. And Tony Evers doesn't do that. And neither do the swampy people who are mired down in this bureaucratic mess and the lobbyists who just want their pockets lined. You know what? I was not the favorite then. And, if those same people, they got a problem with me still because I can't be controlled by them. Okay. If you came to politics and you're getting your feelings hurt, you came to the wrong place. So I spent all 2010, I was recalled. I'm only lieutenant governor in American history to face a recall in the middle of my chemotherapy. So, if I can go through what I went through in 2010, if I can go through what I went through in 2011, I had, in our reelect, I was told I would no longer have dignitary protection. I just concealed carried myself in our re-election campaign. If I can go through all of that, I can most certainly take on the same old, weasels and snakes once again.
If this whole governor thing doesn't work out, we'll hire you as a journalist because we could use an actual journalist on DrydenWire at some point. Speaking of you had brought up control. So you had stated in an article yesterday, after gossiping around the Capitol, telling anyone who would listen that I can't be controlled, they recruited someone they could control. It goes on to say that they don't have any skin in the game. A millionaire could pay them from the campaign now and pay them in favors later. To whom are you referring there?
You're a citizen journalist, Ben. Your viewers and your listeners are too. It's
there you go. Okay, I'll take that.
It's all over. It's all over right now. It's very obvious who has been recruited, and the names have been named who recruited him.
Sure.
And so I'm happy to take on the establishment once again. I've done it once and won. We opened our time together by me saying that the best indication of what you will do in the future is what you've done in the past. What I've done in the past is take on the bad guys in government and the bad guys who are trying to influence government. And I have won. I've won 4 out of 5. I'll take my win-loss record over anybody in this race. And I am the best person to take on Tony Evers, too. Because what we haven't talked about in this conversation yet is the impact that Roe is going to make in this race. And there are certain things that I feel like I can say as a mother, as a woman who has taken pregnancy tests my entire adult life, like women all over Wisconsin, that frankly the men just cannot understand.
I'm so glad you brought that up. I wrote it down this morning, and then I literally crossed it out before we started because views on this topic are very personal. I totally get
Yes.
that. And neighbors, friends, even in family, right? Or husbands or wives or sisters. And we don't really bring that up. Like in just a casual setting, you just typically don't ask somebody, so, hey, what do you think about abortion? It's just not something you bring up. It's just like that one topic you don't. Yet, ironically, I feel as though I should be asking candidates those questions, but I still feel too awkward to ask. I just feel like I can't ask that question. So I'm glad you brought that up.
It's deeply personal, and it's deeply rooted in what an individual has experienced. And I can tell you that my experience is different than yours.
Yeah.
And it's different than every other candidate in this race, including Governor Tony Evers, because he just does not get it. He does not understand what it is like to be a woman. He does not understand what it is like to take a pregnancy test and be hopeful, or take a pregnancy test and be worried. He doesn't know. He doesn't know what it is like to carry a baby, to deliver a baby. That's not super fun, by the way. But he doesn't know what it is like to experience a miscarriage. He doesn't get it. But women all over the state, we do. And so there are deeply emotional reactions to the SCOTUS leak. And let me tell you what mine is. Tony Evers needs to defend the pro-life organizations that are threatened right now. He needs to stand up and be an adult, whether he agrees or disagrees. Violence and threats, firebombing Wisconsin Family Action, which has endorsed me in this race for governor, is never going to be a solution to anything. Political discourse has absolutely devolved into a dumpster fire. But I blame Tony Evers and Joe Biden and the partisans who simply want to fan the flames of culture wars rather than collaborate and explain and have good discourse on the subject. And here's the good discourse. I was overjoyed. I was rejoicing because I believe babies are babies, whether they are in the womb or, whether they're in, my daughter's bedroom right now because she's just a big girl now. As a mom, I believe life begins at conception, and that's a baby too. But I also know that as soon as that leak happened, there were countless thousands of women across this country who instantly became very worried and very confused. And I am telling you right now that you have my commitment that we are going to surround those women with the resources they need in order to make sure that they live full lives. Right now, we have a whole bunch of people being fed a whole bunch of misinformation about what modern adoption means, about what government can and will do for them. Birth control is never going to be outlawed when I am governor, but I am going to protect babies because babies deserve our protection. They can't afford lobbyists, and so they depend on moms to protect them, whether they are in our bellies or whether it comes to public policy. And so I'm going to stand up and I'm going to defend the voiceless. I am going to make sure that the meekest and the weakest among us are well protected. But I'm also going to protect the women who are worried. And there has been no greater war on women than the Democrat war on women, the most anti-feminist thing I have ever heard in my entire life, saying that women have to pick between having a baby and being successful. You ask any working mom, you ask any mom if she works, and they will tell you that it is one of the most rewarding things in their entire life to go to work or to work at home and to raise a child. And for those women who don't feel like it is the right time for them to raise the baby. We're going to make adoption affordable and streamlined so that there's not the complicated and arduous process that they have faced in the past. Modern adoption is totally different than it was in the 1960s when so many people started talking about this. We can get along, we can collaborate, and we can save babies at the same time. Being pro-life means being pro-baby and pro-woman. And I'm tired of the left lying about it.
Well,
And so I'm going to defend them all.
well, I'm glad that you brought that up. I mean, I'm a man and I'm a husband, so I have a small little husband brain. So this topic and just about everything else, I just do whatever my wife tells me. Whatever she thinks, then that's what I think. And I find it so much easier to go through life. It's great. I wrote down, so we're up against our time, but on your article yesterday, I just happened to notice this when I was looking through it this morning. I wrote down my favorite words because these are the words that you used in that article. Cute, snakes, weasels, greasiest, crazies, boondoggles, and vultures. And I'm like, that's a Rebecca Kleefisch article right there. Like, I didn't even need to see the byline. I just knew who that was right away. We've had a whole bunch of other questions, and I'm sorry, I haven't even been watching them here. Rebecca, what else do you want to make sure that we talk about that we didn't get a chance to?
Well, I think it's really important that we talk about putting the person against Tony Evers who is ready to go. And, I'm ready to go. I sat next to Scott Walker for 8 years.
Do you still talk to him?
Budget. Oh, yeah. He's endorsed my candidacy, and, we text constantly, and we talk on the phone probably weekly. He is a great mentor and, a role model for strength. Don't forget, Scott Walker was the big recall. There are a lot of people who didn't even realize that I was being recalled separately from Scott. But I watched his cool under pressure. And now, remember, I was in the middle of chemotherapy when we were going through all of those protests, 100,000 protesters. And, so when now in this race, those very same, goofballs go and make a big old paper mache Rebecca effigy. I find it great comedy. And I remember the days when they had the big Scott Walker effigy that they brought out to protest Act 10. And I think that it is worth it being in this fight and taking this time to unite and say to my fellow activists around Wisconsin that it is our time to stand up, rise up, and not back down. There are going to be people who threaten us over being pro-life. There are going to be people who threaten us over wanting to give money back to the people of the state of Wisconsin. There are going to be people who threaten us and try and stop us from moving government out of Madison and cutting waste and fraud and abuse out of our budgets because there are lobbyists who depend on that abuse and that waste. But you know what? I can't be controlled by them. The only people I am beholden to in this race are the people of the state of Wisconsin. And those are the people whose votes I ask for right now.
And they can find out more about you at Rebecca for Governor. I think it's .com. I probably should have verified. Okay, Rebecca.
Yeah, RebeccaForGovernor.com.
Hey, what are those pictures behind you?
Oh, thank you for asking. My great-grandfather's patents. So he had 32 patents. He was an inventor. And I never met him. But, okay, this is really bad of me. I'm sure Alex is going to have a fit for me showing you this. But so all of this whole wall is all patents that my great-grandfather did. And so I just chose my favorite 12 from the U.S. Patent Office. And then, the Restore, the Goodwill store. So I just went to, a lot of times they have hotel liquidations. And so I just went there and a hotel had liquidated. So I just bought all these frames for $5 and they had these really big mattings. And then I just printed all those off from the U.S. Patent Office and framed them all in black and white. And then, okay, so here, this is my other, this is kid art, obviously. But this right here, that is the class picture from the where is it? Okay. The 1869 was, I'm just going to go like this.
I feel like I'm on an episode of MTV Cribs.
I know, sorry. 1869 Wisconsin State Assembly. And my great-great-great-grandfather, who was from New York, moved to Lake Butamore in the 1850s to build the Milwaukee to Fond du Lac Railroad line. That is his class picture from the 1869 Wisconsin Assembly.
What?
Family history.
That is so cool.
Yep. And so this grandfather over here, and now I'll sit down and be normal again, but the grandfather who did these patents worked for a longtime Milwaukee company and had a big and important hand in inventing the modern push-button elevator.
Was that what that is?
No, that one is...
looks like a camera. No,
it is a hydraulic power unit.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, so I am clearly not an engineer.
Yeah, I know.
But interestingly, that's a different side of the family than this. They were both engineers, just very different work.
That's awesome. I didn't know that at all.
I'm a public policy wonk, though, so, but I joke that just a few generations separate our public service, 1869, 2022.
That's a few years, whatever.
Runs the family.
Rebecca, thanks so much for coming on. You're welcome anytime.
Thank you so much.
All right. Special thank you to our guest today. All my audio just died. Oh, there it came back. Special thank you to our guest today, Republican candidate for Wisconsin Governor Rebecca Kleefisch, and thank you for watching. For DrydenWire.com, I'm Ben Dryden. I'll see you right back here next Tuesday for Fitzy's and I think it's our 95th episode of Positive Tuesday with Ben and Fitzy. So until then, wishing all of you a wonderful weekend, and as always, have a blessed day.